All right, what's up, crew? We are officially live. This is only my second live in the last 3 months that Tristan and I took a hiatus. So,
Oh, wow.
what better way to do it than bring on Chris Grant? I was actually filtering through because I was trying to find a title and stuff. So, I was looking at our last show we did together. It was 2018.
Oh, wow.
It
I
was in
didn't
our
realize it's been that
old
long.
office building, like before the old one, our very first one. It had that crappy background, so I was kind of excited to re up on our live stream together.
That's
So
awesome.
welcome in, Mr. Chris Grant. If you don't know who Chris is, I'll let him introduce himself. Happy Saturday, by the way. Kind of weird and fun at the same time to be doing a show on a Saturday. Trista's
Right.
hosting a garage sale right now, so I'm like, well, kids are good. She's good. I'm gonna go pop over to the office for a bit.
That's awesome. How's the traffic for garage sailing in your area right now?
It is definitely peak season. So we're in Portland, Oregon area. So we only get garage sales literally for 3 months out of the year.
Okay.
And right now is kind of that peak, especially with COVID. Everyone's just been stockpiling their stuff for
Yeah.
months. People that didn't take it to Goodwill are now selling it in garage sales. So, I mean, I went to drop the garage sale signs yesterday morning for the one that Trista's doing right now at the house. There was like 6 or 7 signs on each corner I dropped off on. And for a split second, I wanted to like just take their signs down, direct all the traffic to ours. We don't have a lot going on, so I was nice. I left their signs up, but yeah, it's great right now. It's peak season.
Oh, that's good. See, it's weird here in Florida. Like I live on a corner lot, so everybody puts their garage sale signs on like my corner.
Okay.
And I've seen a lot fewer, but our people here, they're also old, so they don't want people coming to their house and all that stuff. So it's been an interesting garage sale season.
Yeah. It's definitely a different one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
How's everyone doing tonight? By the way, I forgot to check. Audio, video, good. I haven't live streamed in forever, so we're getting back into it, guys. Quick plug, not really a plug, but shout out. Thank you. I got a new mic. If you did not hear the difference, thanks to Mr. Chris Grant. I was hitting him up 2 or 3 different times because every time I was on a Zoom call or anything with him, his audio was so crystal clear and I loved it. And I always hit him up, what mic are you using? And he would tell me and I'd always forget. So I asked him for the link, and next thing I know, I got a message saying, hey, by the way, you'll have a microphone delivered to your warehouse. So thank you, Chris.
Absolutely, man.
I'm loving this thing so far. I literally just got it this morning, plugged it in. This is the first time using it. So are we all good on audios, videos, all that good stuff? Let me know where you guys are watching from. And P.S., if you're watching in the Facebook group, it just says Facebook user on the comments unless you grant access to StreamYard. So I have no idea who's commenting from there. It just says Facebook user. So you can plug your name if you need to there. So shout out to everyone who's taken time out of their Saturday to watch the live stream. We're going to talk everything online arbitrage, by the way. This is freestyle. I have just a few bullet points. We'll make sure we cover just important topics about OA. Right now is a huge opportunity, obviously, in the online arbitrage world. Retail arbitrage, still great, but there's so much opportunity in OA right now. So Chris Grant is the master with OA, tactical arbitrage, all that fun stuff. So Chris, you want to introduce yourself for maybe first-time viewers, people that don't know who you are? Why
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been around for a while. I think I sold my first thing on Amazon in like 2008, maybe. And I'm always, I don't know, some people chuckle at what it was. Other people are like, why would you sell something like that? So, but it was a vintage gentleman's magazine was the first thing I ever sold on Amazon, merchant fulfilled. So I've been around for a while. Then I started doing retail arbitrage, thrifting and all of that good stuff. And then once retail arbitrage, once I had a kid, I was like, man, I really need to figure out how to do this at home. And so we figured out some online arbitrage, doing things manually, and then tactical arbitrage came out. First there was OA X-ray, and then tactical arbitrage came in and changed the game. And so like when that happened, I dug in and I just learned everything I could about how to use this tool. And it's just, I guess I've kind of become maybe the software evangelist for TA since then, because I think it's so incredibly powerful and there's so much leverage there. And yeah, that's what I've been doing ever since. Been kind of running Facebook groups and, things like that for 4 years maybe now, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, I've been around for a little while.
Awesome, man. Well, I know we appreciate you taking time out of your Saturday. Val, yes, this is live at the time that you were watching this and hearing it. It is definitely live right now. Shout out to Jonathan. I opened up the Facebook feed on my phone so I can see names. Jonathan from ilovesupplies.com. Not an affiliate or sponsored post, by the way, but that's the supplier we use for all of our polybag needs here at the Prep Center, our own personal business. Across the board. So ilovesupplies.com for all your poly bags is who we use. So shout out to Jonathan who's watching in there.
Not only does he make a great product, but he's also just a really good human being.
Oh, 100%.
I've
had lots of conversations because I've mentioned these guys on Instagram a lot. And I get messages almost every time, at least one message that says, they're not the cheapest bag. I said, I know, but they've got a great company. They've got great customer service. And I'm a huge fan of the owners. And it's the same thing with, I've mentioned a couple times to people who are like, well, your prices for the Prep Center are not the cheapest. I'm like, I know. I'm not here to be the cheapest. I'm here to be the best. Right. And so sometimes it means having a higher value. It's the same thing. Like we pay thousands of dollars for iPhones that are not really that much better than some of the cheaper ones on the market, but it's all about brand and value.
Mm-hmm. And I want to touch on that for a second. People might say something. Oh, that seems like a lot of money to pay for prep. But if you're doing online arbitrage, I think you really need to flip that around and figure out a couple of things. One, how much am I saving in taxes? I am used to paying like around the 7% mark. And I know that in Oregon, taxes are, that's foreign to you.
Literally every time I travel, I'm so thrown off if I go to pay $10 for something and it rings up for more. I'm like, wait, what? Oh, sales tax. That's a thing. Yeah.
So like I was talking to someone and they pay 10% sales tax. I don't know where they live. That sounds like the Republic of California or I don't know, some other place that has crazy taxes.
Yeah.
But if you're paying 10% in sales tax, if you buy something to flip for $12.50, you've now broken even and you don't have to do the work. And so now not only are we break even on the cost for the prep, but our return on our time investment has just gone way up because how much more can you find to flip when someone else is doing all the prepping and packing for you? So we gotta think of it a totally different way.
100%. I had a conversation with somebody on the phone. It was a single mom of 4. And I always ask when I'm onboarding new prep clients, I always ask them, how many shipments do you get out per week? Usually it's 1 to 2 on average. And I always ask them a follow-up question. How many hours does it take you to do a shipment? Usually about 3 hours, depending on the size, right? So let's just say 3 hours to do a shipment, 2 shipments a week, that's 6 hours. So I asked her, I'm like, cool. So you just signed on as a client. You now have 6 hours of extra free time. What are you going to do? And she stopped real quick. She's like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. I guess I can source more. And that's where the scale happens. So yeah, it's all about the time that you're saving is the value rather than necessarily the money aspect. Yeah. So anyways, let's talk about OA. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. So if you guys, we'll start from the ground floor and this is all freestyle. So we're going to base this on the questions and that you guys have in the chat. So feel free to drop any OA related questions down in the chat. Tactical arbitrage. Chris is more than happy to screen share because he's the TA master. He can screen share and show you guys tactical arbitrage stuff if you have questions about that. We just want to make this, there's a lot of tips and information about OA floating around out there in different videos. We want to just compile that all into this 1 hour segment for you guys. Just pack a ton of value for you, especially after our hiatus away from YouTube for a while. I feel like I need to make up for it just by dumping a ton of value in here for you guys. Washington State, 13%. That's right.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and that's just north of us. I go into Washington a couple times. Not so much anymore. I'm not doing a lot of RA right now, but usually once a week I'll go out and do RA. I go to Washington for some specific stores, and I'm still able to give them my ID, and I'll get the sales tax knocked off.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, save that 13%. It's crazy. So we'll start with the basics. If you don't know what OA is, you're a new seller. Some of you don't even resell. You just like watching reselling content. OA is online arbitrage. That's the basic foundation of going to, let's say, target.com. You find an item on clearance for $5. You buy a couple of those. They're selling for $20 on Amazon. And in a perfect world, they sell quick and then you double your money. Great. That's OA in a nutshell. Of course, there's a lot of ins and outs that can go between there. Oh, sweet. Val signed up for Brickseek Extreme. Yep. Worth every single penny. If you are actually going to go out and do RA, Brickseek obviously is well known now. I was using it under the radar for years. I'm talking like probably 4 years ago. I first signed up for that, and of course back then nobody was talking about it, so I kept it on the down low. But now it's kind of, it's information that's all out there. But man, I've made I don't even know, at least $20,000 or $30,000 profit based on Brickseek leads over the last couple of years.
Have you downloaded their app that's like in beta testing all the time?
I did, and I didn't see. I mean, I feel like we need to do a whole segment just on Brickseek. I literally have done 2-hour trainings inside of our private groups for this stuff. The thing that is with Brickseek, if you're mobile and you're out and about and using it, absolutely. Personally, I haven't found the extra benefit of using the app versus just going through the browser if I'm out. More so what I do is the morning that I'm going to go out or the night before, I'll go on Brickseek on my computer, make my shopping list, do all that, and then I'll refresh it before I leave to make sure all the data is semi-accurate, and then I go out and hit it. And I use the email alerts more than anything. So more so than the app, I'm actually using my emails I set up for it so I can catch those deals as they're coming in.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've got to use Brickseek more often. I build a software to help people use Brickseek, and I don't use Brickseek as much as I should.
Yeah.
So, did I ever tell you that story?
No.
So I built, when I was newer to OA, I was like, what would be really great is if I could check like all the zip codes around me.
Oh, that's
as
right.
well.
You hooked me up with that extension. That was a couple years back.
Yeah. And so I built this extension.
Okay.
And then, a couple months go by and the developer, like the guy who owns Brickseek, he reaches out and he's like, did you build this? I was like, yeah. And he was like, you're really like killing our servers. And I was like, no, I built this specifically to make sure we don't overload your servers.
Yeah.
And it ended up being someone like ripped off what I was doing, and they made it so that it would check every single zip code in the entire country.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, dude, here's what's going on. Like, here's where you need to go. And he was like, oh, and I was like, so are you good with what I'm doing? I gave him a copy, showed him, and he's like, yeah, I don't care. Go ahead.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Dang. I didn't know that part.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Welcome to the online world, ladies and gentlemen. So right off the bat, do you guys have any specific trails with the OA world you want to start going down? We're here to provide as much value as we can. Chris obviously has a ton of experience with tactical arbitrage and OA. I've done plenty of OA myself, and we also run a prep center where 75% of our clients are all OA, so we deal with it on a daily basis. So pretty much here to dump as much information as we can. I guess we'll just start throwing out random tips and advice. If you're good with that. These are in no specific order. I just wrote a few notes down. My first tip is keep a sheet for a couple reasons. So I used to, especially as a new seller, you don't know any better. One, for your accounting, obviously, if you're not using anything like Inventory Lab, keep some type of document, some type of Google Sheet or Excel file so you can keep track of your accounting stuff. But more so, you want to keep a sheet so that you can go back in a later date and potentially source those leads again. And that's a big thing that I've learned, especially after running the prep center. We've prepped, I don't have my sheet up in front of me, but we've prepped well over 50,000 units now for clients. There's a couple trends that I've seen that the most successful sellers are doing. A lot of them are not necessarily always trying to find the next deal, the new products. They're going back and resourcing their older finds that they had to see if those deals are still live, to see if that deal is on another supplier website, and they're just replenishing those old orders. A lot of people think that replens are something like a grocery item that's going to be purchased again and again. replens can really be any category. So that's one thing I've caught on to, especially working with volume clients now, is the fact that they're not always trying to find tons of new stuff. They're just going back through their old stuff and their old leads, even from months ago. Some of those deals might be live again. Some of those deals are going to be on different websites. So that's my first tip, is to keep a sheet. One, for the accounting, but two, so you can go back and source again and again and potentially find replens that way.
Yeah, that's huge. And to go off of that, like you talked about, they're not all grocery. This hat right here, I wear the same hat. People see the same hat every single day when I'm doing video. The thing is I actually order a new one of these every 30 days because I sweat through it, or I'll leave it on the table and my dog literally eats my hats. So like replens are everywhere. I sell in health and beauty, and I love those replens, but undershirts, underwear, socks. I mean, it's everywhere.
Literally. Yeah, so that was my opening tip. I guess if you have any tips off the top of your head you want to go with.
Yeah, one of my favorites is kind of keep your finger on the pulse of sales cycles. So, and Chaz knows this because I send him stuff from Walgreens a lot, but like I know the Walgreens cycle. So, when items go on sale, there's a couple of brands that go on sale at Walgreens all the time. And I'm usually able to replenish those every time they go on sale. But knowing that, okay, well, this is on sale this week, so I'm probably going to expect it to go on sale in another 4 or 6 weeks. And then, okay, well, I need to start looking out for that. I need to go grab that sale. Becomes crucial to your business. And that's not just that. It doesn't just happen at Target and Walmart and Walgreens. It happens everywhere. All of these little niche sites that sell niche products, they do sales on a very regular basis. And if you grab those, you are good to go. Eli says they have Reddit users that created Google Sheets with dates, sales cycles based on past years. So that's awesome.
Smart.
I'm gonna have to go digging in Reddit now.
There you go. Awesome. Yeah, we interviewed a couple different OA sellers, or 7-figure sellers inside of our private group. They both said the exact same thing. It's not, and on top of that too, they're not sourcing from, you would think a 7-figure OA sellers, they've got 30, 40, 50 different websites they're ordering from. These guys have like between 12 and 15 sites, but they're catching those sales cycles and they're kind of alternating. And that's their wheelhouse for 7 figures. So that tip paired with, find a few sites, and these are the same tips they gave us, was find a few sites and track them every quarter. Just track what sales they're doing. Usually most companies will do some type of sale once a quarter, some big sale. Then of course, especially Walgreens, they'll do the buy one, get one. They'll do buy one, get one half off, which makes it 25% off each. So you just learn those cycles like Chris was talking about. And we've heard that from a lot of pretty large sellers too.
I think that's interesting too, that you say that they've got like 12 to 15 sites. That's it doesn't take a lot to really like scale in this business.
Just sit right on the pile there. Thank you. Got deliveries coming in.
Absolutely. It doesn't necessarily take a lot to scale in this business. You can find these honey holes all over the place. And I hear, actually someone in a group the other day was like, retail arbitrage is just a race to the bottom. And I couldn't help but laugh. I'm like, maybe if you're doing it wrong, but if you're doing it the right way, like this is sustainable long-term without any issues.
Yeah. I think you and I commented on that same post. I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, I did a little post myself in there and tried to give them some advice. It's like, if you're just hustling clearance aisles, yeah, that's going to be the lowest hanging fruit, the fastest price tanking items you can get. But there's even ways to get around that. And it comes down to patience most of the time and a little bit of risk. And what I mean by is, so I went and shopped toy clearance like 3 weeks ago, And out of one Walmart, pulled 4 carts worth of toys out. I spent like $800. It was, my average cost was like $3. It was crazy stupid. Just this one Walmart, for some reason, just the manager obviously wanted to just liquidate. I mean, it was VTech toys and stuff like that marked down below $5. It was crazy. So I bought all those, and obviously building the prep center right now as we just moved into the space. We've been scaling. I haven't had time to do my own shipment or even put my own name on the schedule board to get my team to do it. So I just shoved it all in a shelf in my office, and it's been chilling there for 3 weeks. But every week I was kind of checking up on the prices of stuff, and that price tank happened on all those toys. But because I waited 3 weeks to even do my shipment, I did the shipment yesterday of 400 units. I was able to recheck Keepa and the prices, and guess what? All those price tankers are now sold out, and the prices have kind of creeped back up. And so now I did my shipment and sent it back in. So usually my advice for the RA people doing just clearance is first in or last out. A lot of people like to play this middle ground. It just doesn't exist if you're dealing with that stuff. You either get in, cash out 10, 20%, quick flip, and then you're off the listing, or wait for all those low ballers to sell out and then go make your money on the higher percentages there.
Yeah. That advice also pairs really well with like lead lists.
Yes.
So and I know you are too. I am a huge fan of lead lists. I'm literally on like 6 of them. And there are weeks where I may not source anything from the new leads that are coming out, but in 30 or 60 days, I'm going back and checking those, and the market has stabilized and nobody else is going back and looking at those leads. And now I'm coming in with profitable items. So that's absolutely huge.
Yeah. So you guys, that's the second time around you've heard that same tip, go back and source old leads. And if you haven't kept a sheet, you don't have any way to look at that. If you have Inventory Lab or Seller Central, just go back and look at your old sales. Go back and look at your old listings that may have been out of stock for a while and go and find those. One of the easiest ways without software is just reverse image search it through Google, and potentially you might find that floating around Target, Walmart, wherever. Mark Davis asked, do you have a threshold for the number of FBA sellers on a particular listing when researching OA products?
So honestly, no. It's not something I typically look at. What I do look at is I look at the number of competitive sellers on a listing. So what you're going to find let's use an example from the past. Let's use Pie Face as an example. Okay. Pie Face was a toy that was like sub 100 during Q4 one year, and there were 700-800 sellers on it. And I was able to sell, I think the evening I went out and I drove for like 12 hours, I think I found 85 of them, and they were all sold out before I got home doing merchant fulfilled on a listing with 700 other sellers. And so the thing is I could buy them and I could compete very profitably for the buy box, even with MF in Q4. And then you're going to see these other sellers who have got really, really high prices, and they're holding out for the market to go up. And then you've got some sellers who are absolutely they're trying to get out as quickly as possible. So you really just need to see out of the 700, okay, well, maybe there's 30 that are competing for the buy box. And then you need to figure out, okay, well, is this something that's selling, 100 units a day or 100 units a month or 10 units a year? So if there are 10 competitive sellers on something selling 10 a year, I'm out. But if there's 10 competitive sellers on something selling 100 a month or 100 per day, then I'm in all day long on that. So that's what's more important than the number of total sellers.
I'm right there with you on that. Same thing. The velocity is more important for the kind of stuff that we do, because we similar story with the Fingerlings. We hit Fingerlings really hard. I even reached out and hired 2 shoppers in 2 different towns because Fingerlings at the time, this was 2017. They were $15 off the shelf, and I would pay them $20 each. They were more than happy to make $5 each because they were getting volume. So we ended up selling about 600 of those. But it was the same thing. It was because they were selling so fast, and every time somebody would tank that listing, I would just hold my price because I knew most of the time too, they don't have much. Right. It's usually 10 or less quantity for people that are just, they're kind of reaching that scared point of, oh my gosh, the price is coming down. I better cash out. So they drop and then everyone else follows the same. Just wait. Right. And of course, if that's not your business model, don't do the waiting game. Some of you are good with just 10, 15% and just quick flips. Rock it, do what you got to do. But that's kind of what we do, both Chris and I. I'm more than happy to wait out, and especially if I know that it's volume and velocity moving on that listing, wait for those low ballers to sell out. Especially right now, such a beautiful time too, leading up to Q4. Like prices are slowly going to start doing that creep, and then we know right after about Black Friday is that usually that yearly marker where prices start to really go up. So that's why I didn't mind holding on to those toys. That were chilling in my office for 3 weeks because I knew that right now is a great time to send in the wave. And I'm good with holding on to those, especially because I got them so cheap. I'm not missing that money by any means right now. I'm good to just let that sit as an investment, and then I'll cash out and hopefully 5x my money on those deals.
What was the toy line with Crybabies? Crybabies is what it was.
Yes.
You saw Crybabies do this exact same thing where Walmart would restock and Target would restock their Crybabies, and you'd see the price come down, and then a week later, because everyone was selling these things and everyone was buying them, you'd see that price come right back up. And so a little bit of patience, a little bit of reading, keep a charts, and you can make some excellent decisions.
Eli said he still has some fingerlings laying around. So my story with the fingerlings was, so we it's great to say we sold 600, but the failure part of it was I got stuck with 150 of them, and it took me, I sold them at a loss and we were selling them in our warehouse sales. I was selling those things for like $3 or $4 each at one point for the last 150. Because Amazon at that point, if you guys were selling fingerlings, you remember the week that Amazon just boom came in stock and they were not out. And I had one of my suppliers dropped off those exact 150 of the sloth ones. So he dropped it off like 3 days before the cutoff to get the Christmas stuff in. And I took that risk. I'm like, all right, I think I paid him, what would that be? $3,000, 2,400, $3,000, something like that. And I ate the loss after that because I went to go send in the shipment. First, a restriction happened after I completed the shipment. So I went to go scan another one just to double check something and popped up restricted. So the restriction kicked in, Amazon came in stock, and that's when I literally just had my boxes of these things chilling in my garage, stored them away for a while, and then ate the loss over the last year.
It's rough, but you know what? And that's one of the other things that, like, losses are not necessarily bad. I mean, they suck. Don't get me wrong. It sucks to do that. But like, as long as you're winning 75 to 80%, you're going wide and you're not necessarily going crazy deep, like deep that you're going to get yourself in trouble. As long as you're winning 75, 80%, like this ends up being a net positive gain. So, and I saw a comment that I think deserves a little bit of shouting out. Val said her UPS guy gave her his cell phone for pickups.
Yes.
Guys, please spoil your UPS drivers. I ran across a photo the other day. We used to sell, we would buy books in Gaylords. And we would send in, we do a shipment once a week, and it would be like 1,200 books. And so, I would always have, I had one UPS driver who really liked Jack Daniels. I had another UPS driver who loved craft beer. So depending on who was coming to pick up, every single week, they got one or the other, craft beer or Jack Daniels. And don't worry, I checked with UPS, and they're allowed. My dad is a union steward, so I checked to make sure they weren't going to get fired. If you treat those guys really, really nicely, you're going to get some things that a lot of other people won't, like cell phones, extra pickups, earlier pickups, things like that.
Yeah.
And it goes a long way, greasing their palms.
That is so crucial. We had the best UPS pickup guy at our old spot before we moved into this one. I even told UPS, I'm like, I will pay whatever it takes to have him do this route because he was so good. But he gave me a cell phone number. He's like, if there's anything you ever need an earlier pickup, you just let me know. I'll be here. It was awesome. And I bring that up because of that relationship that we built. And again, treat them well. Money, cash tips are fine, but when you learn different things they like, what Chris did with their drink preferences, I am a big fan of pay attention to what shoes they wear. All right, just a little side tip. Pay attention to what shoes they wear. Most of these delivery guys have the most worn out shoes possible. So get them a gift card to somewhere that sells that brand of shoes. That's something we did with our drivers, and they all loved it. And we got way better reactions out of doing things like that than just giving them cash. Right? If they're hard on cash, they're going to be happy. But when you can personalize that gift a little bit, it really does help out, like what Chris was talking about. So because of that relationship, when we moved into this spot, we had a big deal. As you guys can imagine, we get about 100 to 150 packages per day for prep center clients, and these are between UPS and FedEx. UPS and FedEx don't exactly like to forward packages. What happens is if that truck shows up with 100 boxes to our old location when we moved in here, they would have to re-tag every single box, send it back to the terminal to be put on a different truck to come here. Huge pain in the butt on both sides. So what happened was he started texting me and he'd say, hey, you're just about 10 minutes off my normal route. Instead of me going through that system of forwarding these, I'll just bring them right over to you.
That's awesome.
For the first 2 weeks of that transition to get everything here, he was going off his route for us to drop off here. And he even told us to, because then we started having pickup issues. We produce about 2 to 3 pallets of Lowe's boxes per day for clients to go outbound, and we have a daily pickup. Turns out the guys on this route don't like volume pickups. So we had some issues the first couple of weeks, really the first month. And our old guy had text. He said, hey, if you ever have an issue with one of those guys or they don't show up, message me. I'll make a route over there to do your pickup. Those relationships are just absolutely key. The more you can build those.
There's a great book that I think everybody should read called Giftology, about giving gifts and trying to do it in a way that's meaningful. You don't want to do it just because you're trying to get something, but it also it builds relationships. It's a really great tool.
Absolutely. Here we go. Let's put this one up on. I always forget I can pin these guys. All right. What criteria do you use to determine if a seller is a competitive seller? Example, a specific price range above and below, or lowest FBA offer?
Excuse me. So for me, it's between 2 and 3% of whatever the buy box is. And there's plenty of tools out there for it. If you're using tactical arbitrage, you can look and I'll tell you exactly how many it is, or you can do it manually just by looking at, who's selling the product and what the buy box currently is. And I'm sure there's other tools that do it too. But yeah, just, somewhere between 2 and 3% of the buy box. Doesn't matter whether it's merchant fulfilled or if it's FBA, it typically stays around the same thing. Now, don't get me wrong, the buy box has had its issues over the past 2 months or so. Yes. And there's been weird things going on, and of course we are kept in the dark. But it seems like things are getting back to normal, and so I think that rule still applies for now, at least.
That actually reminded me, there's an issue I caught yesterday when I was doing my shipment. I was going through and just checking the seller's app on some stuff, and I caught on to a few things. I don't know if anyone experienced this or has an answer to it, but one thing I caught on to is when you actually took a screenshot. When you, is this one it? Nope. Here we go. So here's an example. I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see this or not. So usually when you scan on the seller's app, it's going to show you right there where it says none Amazon. Usually Amazon, if they're on that listing, it will show right there. So you can tell, okay, the lowest FBA offer is going to be Amazon, of course. They're actually not showing that. But if I click through, oh, duh, it's a screenshot. I'm clicking through it. I got to have one of those moments a day, and I just did it live. That's hilarious. So obviously I don't have it pulled up right now, but if you click through to the sellers, Amazon is in stock on that listing right now, at least as of yesterday. And I caught that on 3 or 4 different items I had on the tables. So if you're outsourcing or checking things on your sellers app, just to be on the safe side, because I think that's an issue right now, kind of along that buy box thing, just click through to check the sellers to see if Amazon is on that. And of course, go by Keepa too.
You, when you clicked through, did it actually say Amazon? It didn't say like Michelle Clark or anything is back.
Nope. Okay. Michelle was definitely not back.
That's good.
Me and that broad got some issues.
Oh man. Yeah, that was something else.
She disappeared pretty quick, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she did. Even I think the last time I checked, even her like that's a real person. Michelle Clark was like a real person, and I think her LinkedIn is gone the last time I checked.
She was some like exec at Amazon.
Yeah, she was like VP of sales at Amazon.
It's like somebody in some department was like, "Oh yeah, just use Michelle's name. She'll never know."
Yeah.
If you guys don't know the whole Michelle Clark thing, Michelle Clark started showing up with dumb low prices on all these listings, thousands of them. And it turns out, a little bit of research, it's Amazon trying to do some alias for some reason. Who knows? And then she disappeared.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of publicity, and she went the other way.
It's hilarious. All right, so more OA stuff. Do you guys have OA questions? We always want to tailor this based on who's watching, what we can help with. If you guys are watching the recording, you can always comment below between Chris and I. We can come back through and comment those answers for you. This is another tip too that recently I started doing. So if you guys ever ran into an issue where, let's say you order something on Target and they limit you to 3 or 5, right? Pretty common thing. A lot of retailers have started doing that more so lately. Especially things are just going out of stock so fast with everything that's been going on. So let's say you find an item at Target. It's a great buy. It's a fairly quick flip. You can make $4 or $5 profit. Great in OA world. If you order the 5, typically what I would do in the past, I don't know if Chris did this too, but I would just call it good and go find my next product. I have 5 of those on the way. Recently, I thought, well, if it's on Target, it's probably on Walmart too. They have a lot of crossover products. Let's go see if I can order on Walmart. So let's say I can order another 5 on Walmart. Now I have 10 coming my way with no risk of being flagged as a reseller because I'm on 5 units, 2 different accounts. Rather than placing 2 repeat orders of 5 on Target, starts to get into a little bit of risky area the more you do that, especially with Target and Kohl's are 2 of the biggest ones that obviously just don't like resellers. I feel like Target's been getting a lot more trigger happy on pulling those account bans pretty much. I had my 1% cashback, whatever their circle is.
Circle's been banned.
I had that blocked. They wanted me to call, so I called. I'm like, why'd you guys block my account? I'm just ordering for Christmas. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll reinstate it. So that's another tip that I've been doing myself recently too, is I'm going to check where else can I get this, so that instead of just getting 5, I'm going to get 15 or 20 of them from a few different spots if I can. One way you can do that, you can just Google search the item, but right click. And I actually learned this from Chris a while back. Chris hit me up with, there was a sale going on. I'm trying to remember who it was with. There was a sale going on, and you had mentioned like you can't put this page into Tactical Arbitrage to reverse search it. Mm-hmm. So you were like, yeah, just right click on the photo and then search Google, and boom, that's how I was able to find some of those deals. As you guys can see, Chris's wealth of knowledge of little tiny tips and tricks like that can really save your butt. So that's what I've been doing recently is if it's on Target, I'm going to right click on the Target photo, search for image on Google, and then hopefully it will pop up in different shopping sites too.
Yeah. It's huge. And like Google has an excellent search algorithm for images. You're going to get a ton of different places where that kind of stuff pops up. And just if you're going to do that, make sure that if you go to like, Sally's homesupplies.com, you've never heard of it before, make sure to check and it's a legit site, because I may have gotten burned once or twice before I started doing a little bit more digging in on sites.
Oh man, I've got a couple of stories I haven't shared before because they're so dumb. Lost thousands of dollars doing dumb stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
maybe one night this will be whiskey and we'll share some stuff.
that sounds good.
We should do that, a whiskey and chill night.
Right?
Share the stories that none of us have ever shared.
Oh man, I've got a few.
That's hilarious. All right, game on. Are you guys down for a whiskey and chill night? We'll be whiskey and story. We'll come up with something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of my other tips is the reverse search, and also not just the reverse search alone, but trying to order from multiple different suppliers of the same item if you're hitting those limits. Way safer to do that if you can than just ordering over and over on Target, because that's where they catch on eventually.
Yeah. Especially if you're ordering like their loss leaders, and I know we can make a lot of money on loss leaders. You know, they get you in with 50% off of something, and you want to go order a 300 of it, and those are the people who've had their Target accounts like straight out banned. Okay, but now a lot of times, like I've gotten away with ordering like 150 units of just a regular priced kitchen product. It was a what was it? It was an extract. Mm-hmm. And they typically don't seem to have issues with that. But yeah, if you guys are ordering their buy two, get two video games for free and you're trying to get 300 of them, please don't do that.
Yep. We both know people that have gotten away or tried to get away with it, I should say.
Doesn't work.
Next thing on my list too, this is a big one, ROI. Let's talk about expectations with ROI, especially. It's so funny. It's such a different world when we're dealing with prep center client inventory now and seeing their patterns and habits versus when it was just our own account, because we have our own bad habits and expectations in our own account. And now we're working with the client. So one trend I've caught on to, you guys have heard this 1,000 times, but if you want to grow a larger scale, successful business, not just in OA, but it could, relate to PL arbitrage, retail arbitrage, or wholesale, have a lower ROI. You're not going to double your money on a lot of OA stuff. Right now, yes, there's a bunch of hair trimmers and really good flips you can double your money on because of COVID. And these are well-known bolos floating around out there, so I'm not giving away anyone's secrets. So aside from I call them COVID bolos, traditional online arbitrage, you're looking between that like 30 to 50% wheelhouse a lot of times, sometimes lower. I'm personally good with, I know Chris is too, as we've had conversations about this. I'm personally setting all my stuff on my repricer to rock bottom 20%. That's not saying my repricer is taking it and dropping it immediately. That's just saying compete for buy box. But if it gets down that low, I'm good to cash out at 20% and call it a day, because I'm going for volume on those types of flips. So I know that ROI is a huge mental shift, especially for those of you, because this is where we kind of came from. If you come from selling a lot of stuff on eBay, where you're 5Xing and 10Xing your money, vintage electronics is one of my games on eBay, and I'm used to buying a VCR for $5 or $10 and I can sell it for $100, right? You're not going to find those. You will every now and then, don't get me wrong, but you're not going to find those as your bread and butters when it comes to the OA world. So Chris, I'm sure you've got some input on that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, when I started, Amazon was the Wild West when I started. So you could go and buy things from thrift stores new in the package, and you'd sell them as new. And like nobody was ever getting and dinged for that kind of stuff. So like I was used to 500% ROIs and crazy thing. I buy something for $5 and I'll sell it for $200. And then I moved into books where it's kind of the same thing. Like you're kind of turning your nose up at an 85% ROI on a book, but once you kind of move into, okay, this needs to be like a legit online arbitrage business, or even retail arbitrage. The fact is you're going to be turning over your inventory so much faster than a typical brick and mortar retail business that you're going to grow much faster by taking that lower ROI. And the fact that if you can get, a 20% ROI, but you can flip that inventory once every 30 days because they're taking so long to check things in, or if you can flip, even if you could flip that inventory twice in a month, once the logistics all get back to normal, you're going to make more at 20% ROI than you might holding out for that 75 or even 100% ROI, just because the speed at which you can do it. And I've done the math before, and once you actually do the math, it's really eye-opening.
I love seeing those charts. Maybe it was one of yours, but there's the two different business models: the double your money but hold out versus the 20% cash flow quick flips. And after a year of X amount of turnovers, it showed the comparison, and it just dominated.
Yeah.
When it came to that quick flip, cash flow is king in this, guys. I definitely have struggled with wanting to do 70% ROI on everything in OA Amazon world and RA stuff like that. And I would do hold my stuff for months at a time because I was just too stubborn to let it go for 30 or 20%. And after that was all said and done, my money was all out. So then I had a lot of issues for several years where it's like, oh, this great deal came about and I didn't have the capital to buy it, right? So when you start running into those issues, for those of you that have access to tons of capital, go do your buy and holds. You'll do, it's micro investing really. But for the normal people who we want to keep cash flow going and keep that capital being able to access it, once you start to do it for 30 or 60 days, because I saw McDonald's Millionaire, he asked, how do you break past it? You break past it by doing it so you can see the results for yourself. It's the same way as the prior fitness coach in me comes out. Is I had a lot of past clients in the fitness world that would say, how do I gain motivation? I'm in a mental rut. How do I, same question, how do you break past it? You have to do it. And then as you see results are what create the motivation to keep doing it more or to do more of it. It's the same thing with this. There's nothing we can say it's going to help you break past it until you do it. You see that cash flow result and you go, oh, okay, that was cool. I got money back really fast within a matter of a couple of weeks sometimes. And instead of me putting this up on Amazon or eBay and waiting for 60 days and then getting a little cash back, I'm telling you, it doesn't seem like much in the beginning, which is why mentally it's hard to wrap your head around 20% ROI. You've got to think in terms of volume at that point. So instead of trying to flip 10 things for X amount of dollars, 10xing your money, I'd rather flip 50 things at 20% ROI and keep that cash flow going. Plus, doing that, you're going to spread your risk out a little bit more by ordering more products, less quantity of each one, spreads that out a bit.
Yeah, and if you're used to going out and be like, it's 100% ROI or I'm leaving it, just do one item. Just do one item. Let's see. Someone says, can I still buy Walmart clearance and sell it? Yeah. And I don't think anybody should ever stop looking at, listen, I'll go grocery shopping, and when I get back, my wife's like, why were you gone for 2 hours? And I'm like, well, I meandered down the clearance aisle while I was at, Walmart, or I checked every single end cap while I was at Target.
Yeah.
It's a hard habit to break, and there's still good things there as long as you realize what's going to happen. If it's being clearance nationwide, the price is going to tank, and you either need to hold out or you need to sell it quickly. If you can talk to a manager like, hey, do you know if this is being clearanced everywhere, or is this just something that's being clearanced here? I've been lucky to find things that are like local brands being clearanced, and I'll just clear the shelf because I know that, it's not also going to be clearanced in California and Texas and Ohio and a bunch of other states as well. So a lot of different ways to take care of clearance stuff, man.
Absolutely. P.S. I just saw it there from Portland, Oregon. I'm just an hour south of there in McMinnville, so nice. another local. Are we all good on ROI? Do you guys have questions? Anything like that? Again, we're here to just provide whatever value we can for you guys. Next one. This is always a fun topic. Let's talk about sales rank. When it comes to OA, do you have, obviously it varies from category to category. And I know you and I have talked about this before, so we have the same thoughts on it. Do you want to talk about sales rank? Are you only sourcing things that are ranked 50,000 or below? For Let's dive into that conversation.
Yeah, let's do it, because this can be like a come to Jesus moment for a lot of people. This is one of the number one things that someone will say, "Hey, I can't find anything with tactical arbitrage or anything like that." And I'm like, "Hey, let me see what kind of filters you're using." And they're like, "Well, I only want to sell things that are 50,000 in rank or less." And you're leaving a ton of money on the table. Like, everybody wants to sell stuff that's always ranked under 50,000. Unless it's in like the baby category. Once you start getting to like 50,000, it starts being pretty slow, or video games or something, but stop looking at the sales rank and either look at an average sales rank, or even better, please learn how to read a Keepa chart. Okay. And Keepa charts. So here's the thing. Everyone's like, okay, well, Jungle Scout and Tactical Arbitrage and whatever other tool they're using, they tell me it's moving 50 units a month, and Keepa says that there's only 10 rank drops per month. So rank drops do not equal sales. Okay, sales can happen when the sales rank goes up. Okay, it doesn't just happen when it goes down. And you have to remember that Keepa it's not checking items sales rank every single hour in a lot of cases. Sometimes it might be once a day, or sometimes it might be 6 times a day, because you have to remember that each one of us that have Keepa installed on our computer, we are actually out there gathering data for Keepa. It's not just them going and scraping the entire site all on their own. So rather than look at the bestsellers rank, look for velocity. Okay. If you can see that the sales rank is moving and it has a nice line, all right, then it's likely selling well enough to test. And this goes back to that go wide, not deep, especially when you're not 100% sure, because nobody knows other than Amazon how many units a product is actually selling. Not Keepa, not Tactical Arbitrage, not me or Chaz. You just have to test. And so, like, I'll buy something that is ranked, say, 250,000 in the beauty category, but I can see that at the 250,000 mark, it's still moving up and down. And one day it's 175,000, and then it shoots up to like 275,000, and it comes down to 150, and then it's back up. Okay, that item is moving, even though it's not necessarily moving really quickly. So if there's, say, only 2 other sellers on that listing, I might buy 5 and see how quickly I can sell out. And if that 5 sells within 2 weeks, well, then it's time to replenish it and go a little bit deeper if you can. So really, really learn how to read all of the little telltale signs inside of a Keepa graph, and you'll be able to make much, much better decisions, and you'll find a lot more profitable products than relying on sales rank only.
What he said. No, I agree 100%. Some of my best flips have come from items that have a bad rank, because usually when something has we're not going to get into the debate of, is it called a high rank or a low rank, right? It depends how you're looking at the numbers. The higher the number, I call it a high rank. So a high rank is a bad rank. That's the general scenario when you're out scanning something. You might see a rank of 400,000 in toys and think, oh, this is never going to sell. I'm not buying that. I'm going to dig a little deeper. And again, Keepa plays a big part in this. Why is it not selling faster? So, if the listing looks good, where sometimes it's just a crappy photo or the description sucks, maybe it's missing back end keywords. There's all these actual listing adjustments that you can edit, or at least put in a request to edit. So that's a different scenario, different teaching tutorial. But for the most part, it's going to come down to a price. And this kind of goes along with eBay too. If something's not selling well on eBay, why? Sometimes it's just the price. Sometimes it's the photo. Sometimes it is going to be on Amazon World. A lot of times you'll see that there's no active FBA sellers. And we've talked about this a lot here on the channel. Those are gold mine opportunities. That's where I've made some of my best flips is when I don't care what the rank is. Sometimes I even buy no rank items that sell when it checks in because there's no FBA, there's no prime offerings. One SKU I can think of off the top of my head was this big Barbie vehicle set. It was a long, skinny box, and I scanned two of them, $9 each. They had two of them in there, scanned it. It was ranked 800,000 in toys. Why in the world would anyone buy that? Most people probably scanned it already before me because it was in the heart of Portland was the store I was in. I know there's a lot of sellers in Portland. So I know it had probably been scanned already. Why did they pass on it? It was ranked 800,000. There was no FBA sellers, and the lowest MF price was $120. No wonder why it's not selling. It's way too high, and there's no prime offering. So I came in, I shipped them in as a prime offering. I paid $9. I probably paid another $3 or $4 in shipping per unit, and I dropped the price to $88. Sold both of them within 2 days of being checked in.
Absolutely.
Always keep an eye on those two main things. Is there prime or FBA? Are there FBA offers? And how's the price? Sometimes if you wiggle the price just by $1 or $2, that's the difference between a customer going, okay, yeah, I want to buy that now. It's $17.99, not $20. I'm going to buy that. It's amazing the customer buying habits that you catch on to when you do this.
Yeah, and we get to look at all that data. You know, there are some people who are outside of this that I'm friends with, and like, well, it seems like you're kind of gambling. And I'm like, yeah, but I've got the cheat codes. You know, like I get to see the data that the house has, you know, as much as they'll allow, but it's enough to allow us to make these educated decisions. One of my, you talk about that being out of stock. One of my best flips was it was a trap. It shot trap out. So you take clay pigeons in them and, you know, pull, and it shoots out these clay pigeons into the air. And it was huge. It was bulky. It sucked to prep, but it was ranked like, it was up like near 1 million in sports and outdoors, but it hadn't been in stock for like 6 months. And you bring it in stock, and then you're the only seller, and it's just perfect. Those are my favorite things to do.
Gold mine opportunity right there. We actually had that same scenario. So our team, like they're not as in depth. None of them are sellers. So we're teaching them now how to read Keepa charts and go a little more in depth, because we have a lot of times where we scan a client product in, and maybe it's showing a 10% ROI. And so we're going to go into Keepa and look at why. And so I'm teaching them these tricks, like don't price something at 10% ROI. We want to look at what it should be selling for. And so we had an instance the other day where one of our gals, Jamie, checked an item in. There was nobody in stock at all. And she's like, I can't find a price on this, because, in Inventory Lab, if there's nobody in stock, sometimes it will show what the original price was up top. But all the sellers were blank. There was 0 as the original price. So she's like, what do I price this at? So I taught her click through, and I installed Keepa on all the computers. So showed her Keepa, and so there were no sellers in stock the last 3 months. So that original Keepa chart was blank. So I taught her filter down to the last year view. Boom! Now we have a price point of $40. They paid like $9. It was a great flip, and so I taught her this is a golden listing opportunity right now for this seller. So I told her go in there, price at $39.99, and watch what happens with that. So those are great things to keep an eye out for, guys.
Yeah, they'll sell out of that.
I got some good questions here. Talk about 20% ROI. What is your minimum dollar amount in it? Do you have a minimum dollar amount, or do you just 20% ROI across the board?
So it depends. Like I want to see a minimum of $3, but there are times when you have to break that rule. I go back to that extract that we were selling. We were buying it for, I think, $2.29. $2.29 was the cost on it. It made us 75 cents. But in this particular instance, it was hazmat, so I was the only FBA seller. Nobody was willing to take the time and the effort to send it into Amazon. So we controlled the buy box, okay? It was easy to prep, and I wasn't prepping it at the time. I had an employee prepping for me, and we were making 75 cents on the unit. but it sold. We would sell like 240 of them a month. So for me to take 5 minutes and order enough to last out the next month, I now made what, $100 or so. And so what I like to think about is how many products do I need to make how much I want to make in profit every single year. So if you want to make $100,000 a year, work backwards, okay, and then have some rules, but we be willing to bend those rules for different things, okay. If I'll be honest, if I could only find products that would make me $1 per unit or even 50 cents per unit, but the price was super steady, the price never changed, and prep was easy. Well, I mean, Chaz and his team does my prep, so the prep is easy for me.
You got zero prep now.
Yeah. So, but if I made 50 cents per unit and I could sell, 50 or 100 per month, and I then back that out into, okay, well, now how many units do I need to sell to get to my target profit for the year? I would do that all day long. Okay. So yeah, I have some guidelines, but I'm not like, well, this has to make me $5 or I will never buy the item.
Yep. I completely agree with that. It's nice to have those parameters, like loose guidelines, but yeah, you've got to be flexible with different deals that pop up.
If you have a shopper, so let's be honest, you've got to turn. We're thinking about hiring a retail arbitrage shopper for Q4 because I don't have the time to do it anymore. But I hate that I know that there's like thousands of dollars out there sitting on shelves that I could buy up.
Especially when you check Brickseek and it's a store that's within like 15 minutes, you're like, oh, but I can't leave the house.
Yeah, I mean, it kills me. It kills me. So like for those people, because they're not you, they're not a business owner and they're not using their money. Yes, there needs to be rules. Okay. But some really smart people, Perry and Kim Coughlin, they allow their shoppers to break one of their rules. Okay. So like you need to do some teaching, you need to have some rules, but then you also need to allow that person to think like a person as well. So lots of ways to do it.
Yep. 100%. Kim and Perry are legit. When we were down in San Antonio last, went down there and saw their setup. I mean, we're talking 7-figure business. They've got 13 kids and they had this awesome like conference room that was converted into the kids' homeschooling. It was so cool to see that in person.
They've got 13 kids and they're all still alive.
Yeah.
Like to me, they're like, yeah. I mean, they're of course they're all alive, but to me, I'm like, I don't know how you did that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like we only have 2, and there's some days where I'm like, that's a struggle.
Right?
Yeah, they're amazing. I got some good questions in here. If you have a limited FBA storage limit, and this is going to be a huge issue right now, by the way. We're already past that like threshold. So I got hit with low IPI because I've been focusing on building client businesses and not my own for the last 3 months. So I actually have a pretty small storage limit. So I'm going to face this the same way you guys are. So I'll create more content around it as we go through it too. So if you have a limited FBA storage limit that you're bumping up against, is it ever worth considering an item's profit per cubic foot, not to hold out for slow price flips, but to best utilize your storage space?
So that sounds like a lot of math, which I don't particularly care for. But here's my thought. You need to do a couple of things. One, ask Amazon to increase your storage limits. Okay. There are people who have gotten their storage limits increased, but you are going to have to write a plan of action. And so you're going to need to tell Amazon what you have done differently, but B, you're going to have to show Amazon too. So if you're like, oh, hey, well, we're going to remove these items, make sure it's already done before you send in the plan of action. And then say, we've decided that we're no longer going to be looking for items that sell within 6 months. We're going to be focusing on items that sell within 90 days. And if any of our inventory is over the 90 days, we'll be liquidating it. I like the term liquidating because it can be you're dropping your price, or they might think that you're actually going to pull it back or have them, destroy it. Okay. So, and like I liquidate my pricing. I have like a clearance tab or a clearance setting. And so I do clearance things at 90 days. And so, ask, it's not going to hurt anything. But then the other thing is, I think that this is the Q4 of MF. It is going to be an MFer's dream, this Q4, because logistics suck across the country. It's not just Amazon, USPS, UPS, FedEx, they're all backed up. They're all increasing their surcharges. And you're going to have a lot more buy boxes won as a merchant fulfilled seller than you have in the past, because you're probably going to be able to get it out to them faster than Amazon will be able to.
Absolutely. I have purchased a kitchen item that was ranked over 150K and was selling it every day until I ran out, and I can't hardly find that again. Prime example. It's sometimes it just doesn't make sense. All the Keepa charts in the world, like, they're all third-party extensions and softwares. No third-party extension or software is 100% accurate. So I agree with Chris earlier. He mentioned do a test buy. That means buy 5 or 10 of them if it's a really good deal. See how fast they move, and then make a decision on, okay, how many, if they're moving, let's say you sold out within a week. If I sold 5 in a week, should I get 20 to try to last me the next 3 weeks? Or you have to kind of do the math on your own and figure that part out.
Mm-hmm.
Someone asked, what's the name of our FBA service? So our prep center is called Network Prep. You can hop on the wait list on networkprep.com.
Look at I always feel bad. I want to say it's Tycoon is the way that you pronounce his first name, but look at that IPI flex with the 660.
660.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, and struggling with the cash flow aspect of it. Yep. So that's where it's just like we talked about earlier, cash flow, it should be your focus. You shouldn't be buying things to hold on to, because then your money's just tied up. Right. I was talking to somebody the other day. I told them, it's funny being in a buying and selling world, cash wise, most of us are broke, but inventory wise, we're all fairly wealthy because we have tens of thousands of dollars tied up in inventory. But that's, you've got to focus on those quick flips. Cash flow is going to be your game. I haven't sold anything on Amazon yet, but I have an Amazon seller account. I'm gated in lots of stuff. What do I start off with for a beginner? I'm more of a hands-on person. Are there any people that teach in-person hands-on learning? I don't know of anyone that does the we'll fly out and teach you hands-on type of thing. That would be thousands of dollars. You have to think about the cost to get into a mentor thing like that, their time lost away from their bit. There's all this stuff. As far as where you can start today, where you can start now, books, like Chris said, I started pretty much with books as well. We weren't buying Gaylords by any means, but we were doing a lot of books. Books are a great place to start. And then the other part too, I tell people, go up and down a Walmart aisle of toys or grocery, whichever category you want to sell in. Start scanning stuff and find the brands that you are not gated in and focus on those. And then you can go into Google, type in that brand, get a list of different products they sell, and then start to try out some manual OA that way. So that's usually what I recommend. And then also, if there are products you are gated in but you want to sell in, make a list and then go online, find a distributor that carries that brand, order at least 10. We tell people minimum 12, just be on the safe side, and use that invoice to get approved. That's kind of as simple as it needs to be.
Uh-huh. And I know you want someone local. So it's in the day and age that we're in right now. And I know this is all gonna blow over eventually. Okay. It's not like we still have the Spanish flu from 1918, lingering around, but there's local meetups everywhere. I used to run one in Columbus. That was great. And some guys down in Miami have a great one. And so the thing about getting someone to show you the ropes, physically, you got to realize their time is valuable. They could be doing this for themselves. So a lot of people and some resellers, I've ran into some resellers out in the wild, and I look at them like, hey, what's up, man? And I want to go talk, and they like, scurry off like a cockroach, like I'm gonna, steal the secret sauce or something. So it can be a little tough, but try out a meetup. But most of it's going to be like in places like this where we get to talk and chat and kind of open the kimono a bit.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we're getting down to our time, so we're going to cover real quick one of my last tips I want to give. I feel like we can do several episodes of this.
Oh yeah.
So one of the best decisions I ever made, and you could do this with retail or online arbitrage, as you start to buy and sell things arbitrage style, pay attention to which items and which brands you are selling, and treat RA and OA like a test for wholesale. So if you see that, wow, I'm selling a lot of this type of product, this type of brand, then go to that brand, email them or call them, ask for what the requirements are for a wholesale account. Either they're going to decline you because you're selling on Amazon, which is fine, because then you can ask them for a list of distributors that carry their brands. From there, if you get into a distributor, not only do they carry that brand, they might carry 1,000 other brands. That should keep you busy for a while to go through and request each one of those. So that's a huge opportunity that I didn't even think about until like 2 years ago. I started playing around. I start treating RA and OA like, yeah, it's a part of our business, but that's more so going to be testing different products and different brands for reaching out to wholesale suppliers. So that's a really good technique you guys can start using too.
Exactly. And when you're doing that, like one of the things I used to do in stores is whenever I would pick something up, I would like take a little picture of like this area. Usually is where it's at. You usually get like, let's see, this has an 800 number. It's got a website. Let's see, what else does it have? It's got a few other things. This one is hazmat, so it's got a bunch of hazmat warnings.
Which means we'll have less FBA sellers on it.
Exactly. Opportunity. But I'd always take a little photo of the back of the product where that information was, and I would save them for later on. And then you just got yourself a database of who to contact.
Absolutely. Shout out to Noel, one of our locals. Speaking of local meetups, Chaz, we need to get one coordinated for our area. We do, post COVID situation. We definitely need to start doing some more local meetups around here. Here we go. Have you guys got any flag from Ulta by ordering a lot on the same day? Yes. I've gotten many canceled orders and flags and 2 phone calls from Ulta before. Yep.
Yeah, I just got banned from Kat Von D and
Tarte Cosmetics.
Thank you.
That's when you know you're doing some business. Now you got to do the VPN and separate address and all that fun stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I got to renew my subscription to hide my ass.
Yeah, welcome to OA, guys. I feel like that's episode 2 we'll do is covering more like the struggles and getting into some of the expectations you can have there. Great question from Cerebral, going to be Chaz and Chris. Thanks for sharing all the valuable information. How do you compete against merchant fulfilled sellers? Do you set in your repricer a certain % on top of the FBM sellers?
This is kind of a tough one because it's kind of a different game. Mm-hmm. There are some products that seem to still be giving merchant fulfilled sellers the buy box, even at higher prices than some FBA sellers. Now it's gone back to normal for the most part. And now like last year, I'd be like, oh, well, I could actually mark my price up 10% above FBM sellers if they're the only people on the listing other than myself. So what I actually do is I have a rule where I follow the buy box. And then I try to be competitive with the buy box, whether or not it's an FBM seller or an FBA seller. And then like, I don't think that our time is best spent micromanaging our inventory. Like, yes, it does need to be managed. But I can't spend several hours every single day looking through every single ASIN to see, am I getting 3% of the buy box or am I getting 6% of the buy box? Or, so I repricer, handle all of that. I make sure the rules are set up properly. And then I go on to things that are more profitable, which is buying inventory, and things like that.
Yeah, we do the exact same thing. Depending which repricer you use, I think most of them have an option where you can click to compete differently against an FBM seller. We don't do that. We do the same thing Chris does. I just tell it compete against the buy box. I don't care if it's FBM or FBA. It's just going to be competing at that price point and going up and down by a percentage. Awesome. All right, crew. That's all we have time for episode 1. We'll probably be back. I love that I'm just committing you to future episodes without asking.
I'm always here, man. I don't mind.
I love it. No, it's so fun to get back into just like chilling, creating content, providing some value, hanging out with other awesome people. So I definitely miss being back. So we appreciate you having on. And by the way, so starting Monday, this is not an affiliate connection. This is not a sponsored post. I am a huge fan of Chris and his work. Obviously, he's a wealth of knowledge, open book. If you guys enjoy what you saw here, this is literally a fraction of the value that you guys can see in something he created called the OA Challenge, which starts this Monday. If you're watching the recording, that is on the 24th. So you have until pretty much midnight on the 23rd to get enrolled. $97. You get 14 days. Are you going? This is the second round you're doing. Are you going live every single day like you did last time? All right, cool.
14 days straight.
Man, that's awesome. So you can explain it way better than I can. It's your challenge. So you want to lay out what goes on in there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got made fun of calling it this, but it's literally soup to nuts. If you've never sold on Amazon before, we're going to walk through the entire process of what you need to go away being dangerous. Now, it's not going to give you, of course, you're always going to be able to learn. I still learn. I still buy FBA courses and watch FBA videos to make sure that I can keep up with everything, because the biggest thing in this business is everything is always changing. But in the 14-day challenge, my goal is to make you a dangerous sourcing machine for Amazon using online arbitrage, both manual online arbitrage, tactical arbitrage, and then what I think is kind of the keystone of this whole thing is the Keepa training. I know some things about Keepa that either people want to keep a secret or they just don't know about. And we spend 2 days learning how to kind of unlock the keys to Keepa and allow you to go in and kind of surgically find products to sell that other people aren't necessarily looking at, and things like that. And then, of course, we get into all the tools and fancy gadgets and things that you can have for online arbitrage. And yeah, I mean, that's really what it is. It's 14 days of me just giving you everything that's on my brain about online arbitrage. And we always make sure to answer every person's question. So you should go away having every single one of your questions answered. I think the videos are supposed to be an hour every single day, but I think our longest one was like 2 hours and 15 minutes one day, because there were just so many questions. And so my promise is that you will go away with every single question answered, and it literally costs less than a couple of nice steaks out for dinner for 2 weeks.
Absolutely. You even got a little testimonial in here too, not a sponsored one.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you, Melissa.
Pay for that one. That's great. No, I was in the last one, and I'll be in there as well, providing some content and value for you guys. Chris and I, I'm sure we'll do some powwows and do some dual lives in there. I deal more so with the client side. So I work with a lot of different clients right now, not just me, it's my team. But we have about 75 clients right now. About 40 are actively sending product and getting huge shipments out every single week. So it's been really cool for me to scale my own knowledge, just seeing what volume sellers are doing versus what we were doing in our own business. So we kind of bring the best of both worlds in there as well. And like I said, this is not an affiliate. We don't get a kickback on this. Chris sent me a microphone without my knowledge, so there's my kickback. Thank you for it. No, but seriously, we're huge fans of Chris. Obviously, he just dumps information. If you guys want like a sneak peek into the type of stuff you'll learn about, a lot of online arbitrage courses and trainings and stuff, they're just, let's say, 14 days of just tactical arbitrage, right? Chris is doing some tactical arbitrage training in there, as much as you need to know about, but more so the Keepa training and the different hacks that you can do is where you're going to get a lot of your value at. I one time hit Chris up and I said, hey, I wish there was a way to get a nice clean list given to me that would show which products are that I can FBM that don't have any FBA sellers that I can ship first class. And he's like, oh yeah, there's a way to do that. Here's how you do it. And within 5 minutes, there was a list. Like that's the kind of knowledge this guy has. And he dumps that kind of training in there every single day. And then the manual research too. There's tactical arbitrage is great. Love it to death. We use it in our business every day. There's a lot of stuff that TA might miss that you can find manually. I just shipped out. There's a couple SKUs I shipped out yesterday. I ran TA on that site and it missed the couple of SKUs that I found manually. Right. And there's just, it's a third party software. It's not 100%. So that's why manual research is going to do a huge service to your business too. So if you guys want to get plugged into there, oachallenge.com, no referral link, no code or anything like that needed. Just oachallenge.com, $97 for 14 days, worth every single penny. If you like, I believe in it so much. If you take the challenge and you don't get the value out of it, don't go to Chris for a refund. I have no financial investment in this. I will give you a refund out of my own pocket.
Please don't do that. Please don't do that, Dan.
Good. So hopefully that shows how much we back it up. So if you guys want to get in there, I'm going to be in there every single day answering questions as well, to the best of my knowledge. So pumped to have you guys here. Thanks for tuning in to the channel. Once again, it feels good to be live on a weekly basis again. Next episode, we'll have Trista back in. We're coming up with the schedule right now to do our normal live chats for you guys again.
That's
and thanks
awesome.
to Chris for taking time out of his Saturday, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kid free, so I'm going to go spend some time with my wife and
Yes.
just have a nice quiet Saturday afternoon. So
There you go. And Chris's channel, is your channel just Chris Grant or is it Clear the Shelf?
if you look up Christopher Grant, or if you look up, like, honestly, if you look up tactical arbitrage on YouTube, like, you're going to find a video of mine. I've got a big old head and I'm typically wearing a hat, so it's hard to miss.
That's awesome. Cool. You got a couple people there said, I'm sold. See you there. Love
Awesome.
it.
You guys,
Yeah.
I promise it's gonna rock. It's gonna be a great 14 days.
Awesome. Yeah, aside from that, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will link up all of Chris's information. I know he's got an Instagram account. All that fun stuff will be linked up in the video for you guys. Aside from that, have a blessed day. Great weekend. We'll see you next time.